Hey, welcome to another typology interview with Jeffrey. How's it going, Jeffrey?
I'm doing really well, Benjamin. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for coming, bro. So, awesome. You've been in typology for a while because I remember I caught your YouTube channel a while back. Like you said, you started it just now in September. So, were you before?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
September.
And then you've been into it before that because obviously.
Yeah, so I guess I've been aware of typology for over 10 years.
Okay, there you go.
I'm a little older than I look. I'm 29 right now, and I guess I've been aware of the MBTI since I was in high school, so maybe since I was 16.
Right.
Um, but initially I was pretty skeptical of it. I had this very stereotypical NT attitude where my automatic position was that's completely bullcrap and you need to prove to me why that makes sense.
That's a
Um,
that's a great automatic position. I like it.
yeah, I mean, it helps in life, I think, as a
Yeah.
general rule. But I guess I kind of warmed to it, although the very first time I took the MBTI, I had a good friend kind of coaching me along because he was the one who was really enthusiastic about it. And he was kind of, I'm very movable with the tribe. So he was kind of coaching my answers like, why would somebody favor thinking over feeling? I just don't get it. And so I came out as an INFP the very first time I
What?
took it because I was,
Wow.
yeah, a little too flexible with my friend. And because of that result, the actual profile description that I read didn't really resonate with me at all.
Yeah.
So I kind of put the whole typology thing in a box for a few years, like, okay, that was cool, but it didn't really seem to apply to my life. And then in college, I picked it up again. And I've been doing this like really gradual process of figuring out what my actual type is once I started to care about the system.
Right. So you figured out your type before you joined OP and before you started doing videos, I guess?
Yeah. So I guess it's a complicated answer, but I think all answers are complicated. Um, Yeah, in college, I started looking at it again, and I tested as an INTJ, which is really something that I was aspiring to. I think, like
Okay.
in my head, I just really wanted to be somebody who had that focus, that like funnel, that vision, and
Right.
also stereotypically people think of INTJs as being a little more disciplined than I am. So it was something that I was aspiring to be, and then a few years later, I looked at myself and I was like, oh no, that's not me. And then I started testing as an INTP, and then I was dating somebody she was a stereotypical
Oh, we got cut out.
any understanding of the term. And
You said you were
oh,
dating someone.
sorry,
Sorry, we
what
got
was
cut
the
out.
last thing you heard?
You were dating somebody that was a typical ENTP or something?
Oh, ENFP,
ENFP. Okay.
and the NE sparks were really flying, and I started
Right.
to consider, well, maybe I'm just like a slightly more introverted ENTP. I was kind of clinging to that dichotomy of this is what an introvert is, this is what an extrovert is, and I didn't have a more
Yeah, yeah,
nuanced
yeah. Right.
understanding.
Yeah.
So I pretty
Cool.
much figured it out, but then I wanted Dave and Shan to verify it.
Right. So you got to the ENTP on your own?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. And so then Dave and Shannon sort of confirmed that in some way or another, or no?
yeah, they did. So even when I was initially emailing them as I became interested in OP, they were like, "Yeah, you're really on the right track. We haven't typed you, but it seems like you're figuring it out on your own." But I still like, I guess I was more interested in the animals and the modalities. Like that was the stuff that I had a little tougher time determining how it applied to me. Um, I mean, I was also completely prepared to be an ISFJ or something else entirely. So
Right. Yeah. Right.
I wasn't married to the idea of being an ENTP, and a lot of people on my YouTube channel actually have accused me of wanting to be an ENTP. Like, you're not an ENTP, you just want to be one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But before, ENTP was actually my least favorite type, so I feel like that's just more evidence for like I'm trying to be objective. I
Right.
never liked this type particularly, but yeah.
So, one thing another ENTP told me, and he showed me as well, is that ENTPs are pretty much trolls. Do you feel like you're like a real big troll in your life, or is that not
Hmm.
for you?
That one doesn't. Yeah, that stereotype doesn't resonate for
Right.
me quite as much. Um, in fact,
Do you like
it kind
causing
of makes my
trouble?
I like to crack jokes, but
Right.
I never let it go on for too long.
Yeah.
like I will prank somebody, but then I'll like give away the game immediately
Right.
because I feel bad
Yeah.
that I have a feminine FE and it's double activated, so
Okay. Okay.
it's hard. Yeah.
Okay. You just give away a part 2 here. Okay. So
Yeah.
you start off with any. Is your any special? Is it different? Is it something that's standard? Like, what do you think about your any?
That's a really good question. Well, I think for a long time, I mean, as I mentioned, I typed as an INTJ in college, and I had a pretty bad perception of what any was. Like, it's undisciplined. It's pretty much ADHD as a cognitive function. Um, and I
Right.
didn't really want that, so I was kind of
You wanted the
pushing it away a
focus.
little bit.
Yeah. The focus you were
Yeah, I
saying.
was disowning it, and it's like when I was dating the ENFP, and we had these any sparks flying. It made me more, I guess, receptive to what any is, and she helped me kind of nourish it a little bit. So I started writing a novel whenever we were dating, and it's
Right.
just like this colorful any explosion of vomit. And I mean, vomit makes it sound bad. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know how to compare it to other people's use of any or where it sits on the spectrum. It feels, I guess it feels a little unique. I don't think I see other people doing, or I don't see it. I think getting tongue tied. I don't think I see a lot of people doing or who are interested in the same things that I'm interested in.
Right. So
Yeah.
it was different also from that girlfriend at the time, or like was there a contrast there?
Yeah. So there was a big contrast, but I think mainly that was the FI versus
Yeah.
TI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is NE for you then? What do you see it as?
Gosh, any, I see it as, well, I guess, so I see any as being collecting patterns, and then I'm somebody who wants to push it a step further and define like the patterns underlying the pattern. So like there is sort of a narrowing that happens, but it's still very
Mm,
like we grab first and then we narrow.
right.
So I guess I'm kind of like looking at like philosophy, psychology, as many different disciplines as I can to find all of the juicy patterns that feel like plate tectonics that the world is riding on somehow. And so that's how I conceive of it, is like I'm trying to go for this. I'm trying to find this abstract informational underlying thing, that physical reality is just a manifestation of or an emanation from, which sounds
Right.
pretty woo woo.
Yeah, it does a little bit. We're cutting up again. Okay, yeah, you're back. Do you see it as the universe itself is this pattern? Is this NE?
Hmm. Oh gosh. I mean, I guess kind of in a way. I've never thought about it like that, but if you think, hmm, if you think about like metaphysically, how do we make the move from nothingness to like the infinite? Then I can kind of see like any as being this mediator of like throwing out a bunch of things and then seeing what has like, this is not really making a lot of sense as I'm saying it, but I'm trying. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, as throwing out different patterns that have a certain vitality, and then if they have like some sort of internal ti like coherence, then they can become like the basis for something real and physical.
So you're just
I'm operating at like the
yeah,
edge of this is stuff that I've never really talked about
cool.
out loud, so it's hard to articulate.
Yeah, well, thanks for that then.
Yeah.
Does any come up all the time? Is it something that's always there with you, or is it something that you really have to go out and search for to stimulate?
I think it's happening all the time. I think that I get myself into a lot of trouble because I am constantly doing 10 things at once, and therefore something is going to suffer for that. Maybe everything is suffering for that. So like I'm trying to work while I'm also watching. I have 10 YouTube videos loaded up as I'm working on my actual workload.
This is like your
And
consume then.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm watching everything at 2 times speed so that I can consume as much as possible. But I'm doing two things at once, and I feel very fractured a lot of the time.
Right.
So I think that that's a problem. I do think that I think that I really need to focus on the SI stuff
Right. Yeah.
and let the NE die off a little bit.
Is your NE active like right now too, like during conversations and stuff? And
Hmm. It is, but a little less so because I have a lot of social anxiety. So
okay.
just having this conversation, I'm like that changes the framework a little bit.
Right.
Where it's like I don't really, yeah, I'm trying very hard to focus and be present and not go off the rails too much.
Okay. So do you see yourself as a double decider as lead NE?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I think that's the one thing that really resonated the most in the system is like I so whenever I was sending my video to Dave and Shan, I did consider that maybe I was an ENFP or maybe a jumper ENTP. Like the thinking and feeling have always felt really balanced, and then the
Right.
self versus tribe have always felt really balanced. So I was like, maybe I could be wrong in this particular respect. Um, and yeah, so I just see very clearly in my life that I have these moments where I'm like by myself, hunkered down with a ton of books that I'm devouring, and then I still like to go out and play with my friends. And it matters very much to me that I don't offend other people's sensibilities, like their ethical sensibilities. And that's been a great struggle because, well, I don't know. I don't want to give too much of my type away,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
but
get there. Yeah.
you know,
So then NE, is it masculine or feminine then?
it is masculine.
Masculine. Okay. So you're more like a visual person?
I didn't really think so actually, but
Right.
it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And so the double decider stuff, do you see it come into play in like social situations, or where do you see it more come into play? Where has it helped you navigate things, situations and stuff like that, or
Yeah, I suppose so. I think it's always made me like a pretty good listener with friends, and I'm very empathetic, very much inclined to. I think because I have such like weird, absurd metaphysical ideas floating around in my head all the time
yeah,
that I don't always feel at liberty to express to other people. I'm very attentive to the fact that maybe other people have things trapped in their head that they would like to express. So I really try to do a good job of like coaxing that stuff out of people, making them feel comfortable to express it. Um, Maybe in the hopes that like then we'll kind of engage some kind of
right,
reciprocity norm where they're going to be like, well, what about you? Tell me about. So yeah, and then I guess well, so for things like going to a job interview or whatever, I've always been really good at having a sense of like what people want to hear, what I actually am, and then how to draw a bridge between those two things.
okay.
So yeah, it's very natural to me to engage both sides of that.
Have you found that stimulating other people to say things like are there a lot of people out there that have sort of things under the surface that they want to tell and want to give over, or you're just sort of grasping at nothing?
I find that I don't even have to do a lot of grasping. For whatever
Right.
reason, people like to unload on me. Um, so you just
Okay.
have to. I think that once you give, I think
An
most people
opening.
just aren't accustomed. Hmm? Yeah, most people aren't accustomed to being asked questions, so it becomes a snowball. It's very easy to get into that headspace. You just have to give them a little space, and then it
Right.
happens.
Their blast opens up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Have there ever been situations where like you've been personally attacked? I don't want to say attacked, but like challenged or something on your identity side, and you were able to like navigate out of it using your double deciders as well, or
Hmm. I don't know. Attacked on my identity side. What do you have in mind?
attacked or challenged? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe made fun of or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think I do a good job of that actually. That's one area that I could probably stand to work on. So if I feel that I'm being too challenged, if I don't like being I don't like the masculine TI. So I don't like to like push against people with it. So I tend to engage in this like self-sacrificial thing where it's like, well, I don't need them anyway. I'll just be by myself. If like
I
that's the
see.
solution, which is a suboptimal solution, I think.
Right.
Um, and maybe part of that is that I don't take the time. I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and say it. I don't take the time for sleep energy, so I don't
Right.
like really have this identity stuff systematized in a way that I can say, okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt, but this is true, and this is true, and that's just the way that I see it, and it's not going to change
Okay.
unless you give me better reasons. So I think that, yeah, I think that sometimes because I don't have a clear sense of the structure of the TI, I can just kind of push people away and retreat.
Right. So let's talk about that
Yeah.
TI then. So what kind of structure do you have with it?
Mm. It's I think it's very stereotypical and definitional. So I kind of see everything. I studied a little bit of logic in college, so it's like
Right.
it's very much like if this is this, then this has to be this. So I'm
Right.
always trying to figure out.
That's
First of
kind of
all,
ST
I'm
logic
curious.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess where it's different is that I'm thinking conceptually and that like syllogistic way of if Socrates is a man and all men are mortal, I'm moving a step
Right.
away from like actual people and facts and more to this like abstract pattern, like what's going to be the pattern that's true regardless
Okay.
of the
All right.
sensory information you plug into it. Um,
Right. Right.
yeah, and again, I think that that ties into my desire to get to like the most fundamental level of reality. I'm very, yeah, I feel like if you don't get the base right, then anything that you construct on that is going
Yeah.
to be wrong. So it's yeah.
Right.
So the TI is very foundational and then very deliberate about building definitions and drawing logical connections between those.
Right. And so your TI you think is more of that constructing of a framework? Is that what you're more putting it as?
Yeah, I think so. For
Okay.
me, I know a lot of I've seen you interview people who don't actually describe it in those terms. So I think that's interesting how different people relate to it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm here to get what other people relate to with their functions because it might not express itself in the same way in every person, right? So
Yeah. How do you relate to TI?
I actually have a video on it on truth. It's just contradictions,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to detect contradictions between
Mm-hmm.
whatever two patterns or two sensory information or
Yeah.
between a sensory information and a pattern. So like, oh, this is a sensory point that doesn't fit that pattern. I think we broke up again. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see that the same way?
I think that that's another way of describing it that I would agree to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you have thoughts? Are you able to track your thoughts and see them in real time as well?
I think so. If I'm understanding the question correctly, I might need you to unpack that one a little more.
Right. Well, what are thoughts for like? Do you have? I don't know. Do you have thoughts? Do you know what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is very verbal. I constantly have this stream of words running through my head, and
Mm,
I think that I'm pretty. Maybe that's some NE as well, but
I think that's SI.
I. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hmm. Well, so I'm supposing that you would say that you do have thoughts running through your head, or no?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Like, but for the way you said it was verbal, for me it's not verbal. For me it's conceptual.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking yours is it's based on SI as words, like as and definitions and things like that. Because they're anchors
Mm,
for your NE.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean I do. It's hard to know. Like sometimes these words get so fuzzy.
Yeah.
Conceptual, because I think that something can be both verbal and conceptual.
Yeah. I don't
But
think
maybe
there's
I'm.
yeah.
But maybe
I
I can't like really fathom what's going on inside your head.
right. Well, we can go a little philosophical here. So I think all language is just like pointers in programming.
Yeah,
It'll point to something else, some
right.
concept. And for me, it's a concept, right? But for someone with SI, I would think it's more of like a definition rather than a concept. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about that more, but I
Okay,
think
yeah,
that seems like a fair way to divvy it up.
right. Okay, your play. So your play is second because you just said your sleep was last, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would mean that I've heard people say about that NF play region. Is that like? Does that feel like you can really see verbal language and pick up on, I don't know, social cues and things that people are giving off? Like, are you able to do that easily?
Yeah, I think that I'm really attentive to the like to people's body language and what they're trying to communicate, or even if they're not trying to communicate something, I can detect like, oh, this person's uncomfortable. I should probably leave them alone,
That's
or
useful.
whatever. Yeah, that's very useful, and I appreciate it because I think I had to learn it the hard way. I
Right.
was really awkward when I was younger, and so um, I I know people just have different thresholds, right? So I had some really horrible social faux pas as a kid, and then it kind of overstimulated me and hyperactivated me, and I was like, I can never do this again. I have to always pay attention. Um, and I don't know how that fits with OP necessarily. I think that that's something that maybe like Dario Nardi's brain scans might be helpful with. And I don't know if you saw somebody in the group is trying to build a bridge between those two frameworks
Okay. Yeah, that'd be
um,
interesting. Yeah.
with the brain scan. So I think that'll be cool.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm only partially answering your question. So let's see, what have I overlooked?
Are you asking me? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's a
I thought you
question.
were
I'm sorry.
I thought you were asking yourself. Okay. No, I was just wondering like how that works, that play region for you. If you're
Right.
good at picking up on social cues and stuff, but you basically said you were. Are you always aware of that nowadays? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And are you able to pick up like vibes in a room and things like that and make sure the vibe, like see if the vibe goes wrong or stuff like that and try to like correct the vibe so people are happy? I don't know.
I don't always know how to fix the vibe, but I can
Okay.
usually tell whenever it's off. So I would like to be, the master of vibe, but right now, no. But I can see it, and I can maybe make very small course corrections.
Right.
But usually, I work better on like a one-on-one level. So maybe
Right.
instead of trying to fix the room as a whole, I will just go to somebody who seems to be having a bad time, and you know,
Personally, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
We cut out, but you said you were going to somebody who was having a bad time and
Oh yeah.
sorry
I
about all these
just
problems. I don't know where it's from, but
I think that they're probably on my end, so
okay.
I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah, I was just saying that I think I would work better. That's where I can correct the vibe is on an
Right.
individual basis, and then usually I think that those kinds of vibes have a very like a spillover effect. So if one person is having a really bad time, then it will impact other people. So if you can isolate that person and rectify that for them, then maybe you can fix the vibe as a whole. But
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
Interesting. So that FE is double activated. Are you
Yeah.
it's more activated than your TI. Do you feel like you're closer to it than your TI or it's still a demon for you?
Yeah, I guess one thing that has made the whole sorry. One thing that has made OP challenging for me is that I've already done a lot of self-work so that I feel like I'm responsible for everything.
Okay.
Even though I know that I have this like animalistic gut response to certain things, I will convince myself that that's okay. You're actually responsible for it because otherwise nobody's going to take care of it for you. So it was really hard to think about whether or not I actually felt responsible for FE versus TI, um, which is why I like I said before, I wasn't sure if maybe I was an ENFP or maybe an NETE ENFP or an NEFE
Right.
ENTP. Um, so yeah, it hasn't always been clear to me which one I favor, and I really am typically more aware of the FE, although it does have like a negative charge to it. It's like,
Right.
oh, I don't want to do this, but I have to, and I'm
Like when you're in
very,
public and with people, you're aware of it.
yeah,
Or maybe
aware of
when you're
it. I'm
writing
hyper
something.
aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how does it express itself? Like how does it work for you?
Hmm. I guess generally I'm always trying to elevate the mood of whatever social situation I'm in just by engaging in that light banter. And again, this is where it goes back to engaging people, asking good questions, asking questions that I wish that I was being asked.
Right.
Just trying to model for other people how to be a decent conversationalist. Um,
Right.
Not that I'm, phenomenal by any means, but I try, and I think that's the best I can hope for. Um, so that's one way of thinking about it. And
What about like empathy and things like
again,
that?
yeah, I feel so. I'm actually somebody who's I call myself a sympathetic crier. So if
Okay.
somebody does start crying in my presence, like it really hurts me.
Even
And
do you need to
I
know
will,
reasons for crying or just the crying itself is
no,
enough?
actually, no. Just the crying itself is enough. And I get
I see.
like swept along in the emotional flood. I mean, I guess
It
that's
is
also
feminine, yeah.
situational. Like, yeah.
Will rage do the
But
same thing or
it gets me very keyed up, but I wouldn't say that I feel
right.
rage. I
Right.
feel like I need to escape. Like, oh,
Okay.
this person's really angry, and suddenly I feel like I'm in fight or flight mode, and I would rather fly than fight.
Right.
Yeah. And then happiness is also contagious, but I think to a lesser degree.
Are you in touch with your own feelings as well? Your FI in any way?
Oh, I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on it. As I've been thinking about this whole idea of being aware of the spectrum of values and feelings, and understanding that, yeah, I'm somewhere in that spectrum, so I can kind of hear like a faint signal that is my feeling response. But
Your personal
if I'm
values?
alone, yeah, if I'm alone, it's a lot easier to detect where that is and pluck it out of the spectrum and examine it. But gosh, that's such an ENTP way of describing like
Right.
looking at your feelings.
What about like values and things? Are you more likely to look at social values and public values and be in touch with those, or personal values, or likes, dislikes?
Hmm.
We cut out again.
Well, for me, typically I'm engaging with things like movies or music from a more analytical perspective, where it's
Yeah.
like it's coming from a place of curiosity, where I'm like, okay, so why are people into this? Why are some people not into it? What does that tell us about society as a whole? I mean, I do often have like a positive response to something or a negative response, but yeah, usually I'm just trying to engage from a neutral place. Um, and the things that I do genuinely like, there's sort of a sentimentality about it, or nostalgia, like, oh, this is a band that I've liked since I was a kid. And
Right.
so then that will activate something for me, and I have more of the genuine appreciation.
Right. Do you find that FE also causes you to like jump on the bandwagon a lot as well, or have that tendency at least?
Hmm. Yeah, I think especially when I was younger, I was pretty susceptible to peer pressure, um, which just led me to be kind of antisocial as a way of avoiding that. Um,
Right.
like knowing this is a flaw of mine, maybe I should just not engage with people. Um, but as far as, yeah, the bandwagon and being aware of tribe values,
And
I
trends and
always
things.
try
Yeah.
to and trends, yeah, I always try to look at things from a bird's eye point of view. And so I get pretty
Double decidery, I
one thing
guess.
that yeah, double decidery, and I get pretty, I guess wounded would be the word when I look at different tribes and the clash that's happening.
I see.
Um, and I can like my understanding is like these are both valid perspectives, but because you're treating them um as like absolute and you're clashing with each other, you're just causing more strife than need be.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm always one thing that I'm really interested in is like conflict resolution and
Right.
how to like apply those principles to society as a
Yeah.
whole because
I was just
I
thinking
feel like
harmony as a word. Like you're
yeah,
looking for
yeah,
harmony.
yeah, but it's hard and I think I'm thinking more and more about harmony as maybe I'm maybe there's something to say about the media making the world seem worse than it is, but I feel like we're moving more in a direction of disharmony
Okay.
all the time. Yeah.
Interesting. And okay, so then your last animal blast, your blast seems okay. Like it seems like I can ask you a question and then you'll go off on a little bit of a tangent, not too far, but yeah, like have you struggled with blast in the past? Is it a demon for you or
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And so it's actually my third animal, so I'm infodominant.
yeah, yeah.
And then there's sleep. But that being said, whenever I sent my type, I sent like a predicted type for myself to Dave and Shan in Wingdings so that they could review it in a proper font at their own leisure and not, cheat. Um, anyway, rant, tangent. What am I trying to say? Oh, okay. So I sometimes feel that maybe that's one area where they got me wrong because
Okay.
I do feel like I really struggle to blast, and I would maybe prefer to preserve energy for myself than do that.
Right.
But maybe like I think there are definitely phases, and there's like an ebb and flow thing going on where right now at this moment in my life, blasting feels harder than it usually does.
Right.
So it's hard for me to be objective about that.
What about okay, what kind of things do you blast about? Like what's the informational pathway for it to finally get to blast? What do you need to do to get there?
Hmm. So there are a few different ways that I think about that. Certain things I don't have a lot of trouble blasting about at all. I do like to be kind of clued into what's going on an SF level. Like I like to know like gossip, like here are the famous people, here's what went wrong with them, so on and so forth. And I feel like that's a fun way to play with my friends. Like, did you hear about so and so? It's very low stakes. It doesn't engage my like double masculine, like my NT side where I might
Right.
get like a little too firm with the tribe. So I find I can have a lot of fun just talking about popular TV shows, popular music, whatever's happening
It's also double
on that
feminine,
level.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's one way that I blast, and then
We got cut up.
that is deeply important to me. Oh, I can start the sentence over.
Yeah, yeah.
To blast the NT stuff, I think that I do have to walk through all of the animals a little bit more. So I think that I maybe not even in the right order. So I have to consume, obviously,
Okay.
take in a lot of information, and then I think that it's better for me to sleep before playing with people. So I
On the
need
information, you
to
mean?
yeah, to sleep on the information, make sure that I understand exactly what I feel before I bring it to other people to like ping it off of them and learn together. Um,
Okay.
and then once I've, I guess, triangulated with other people, then I would prefer to blast. But it doesn't always work out like
Right.
that.
So
That's
you would
yeah,
rather play before blast? Like that's something you
yeah,
consistently see? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And you wouldn't blast about something that you haven't consumed or played on, or you would?
Oh no, no. I really hate it. I
Right.
really dislike blasting. It's the
What
hardest part
about
about having a
what about something that you slept on? Can you blast on just something that you slept on?
yeah, yeah, and obviously I would prefer not to. I would prefer to engage other people before I blasted. But if I just consume,
Interesting.
yeah, that way that's just sort of a safety mechanism. Maybe that's a way of making sure before I do the blasting that, because play is kind of an exploratory thing, right?
Right.
So it's like, here are some ideas, we're not taking it too seriously. What do you guys
Right.
think? And then if somebody shuts me down on something, then I'm like, okay, I shouldn't blast on this, because whenever I feel like whenever you're blasting, you're saying, hey, this is important. This is like
The
the
final
gospel,
final stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a way of making sure that nothing is, because
Right.
people will not be receptive to information that strikes them in a wrong way. So even if it's true, that's just another example of the double decider thing in action, I think.
Right. That's really interesting how you said you wouldn't play before blast. That's really interesting. Yeah. For me, I would never like I would, sorry, the opposite. You wouldn't blast before play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would never as well. I would never blast before sleep. Sleep, I think, is something that has to come before my blast. It's really,
Hmm.
it's interesting that people have those different pathways. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, so that Demon SI, the big one,
Yeah.
has it hurt you? Has it done bad? Have you Are you striving to
it
make it better? Is that your
I'm
major direction in
definitely,
life?
yeah.
Yeah.
It has hurt me many times. And it has, it's been such a source of anguish. The ENFP girlfriend that I lived with, she obviously also had Demon SI,
Right.
and like living together, it was very bad. It was like an episode of Hoarders, and their
I
clothing,
see.
clothing all
Okay.
over the floor, and it's just like, I don't care. I would rather be reading about Alfred Whitehead, the philosopher, or whatever.
Right.
So we'll just leave that as it is. But yeah, now, I mean, my room, I'm slowly starting to put in place systems for dealing with this stuff.
Right.
Developing a routine, developing a schedule. But I do have to start really small and have some humility about it. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
something I've always been drawn to is meditation, and I was doing pretty well for a while there, but now I am struggling for whatever reason. So my goal is, it used to be meditate for 10 minutes every day in the morning and then 10 minutes at night. The new goal is meditate for up to 10 minutes. So even if I just sit down for a few seconds and really try to get in that headspace, if it doesn't work, I count that as a victory. And
Right.
then as I develop that habit, I will then move the bar a little bit. So
What kind
I'm
of
I'm trying
meditation?
very hard.
The kind that shuts off your
Um,
ME?
yeah, yeah. So Vipassana, just focusing on like this internal bodily, the cycle of breathing,
Right.
um, coming to understand that you are not your thoughts, you are not these things that bubble up,
Right.
kind of distancing yourself a little bit from that cerebral perspective.
Okay. What other kind of problems have you had in your SI? I want to dive a little bit deeper in here and just
Yeah,
to help people figure out what Demon SI really is about.
yeah. Well, with my
Ah, we broke up again.
sleep. Oh,
Sorry.
can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I need better internet. um, if I, well, so for things like work or school, I procrastinate until the last minute because it's hard for me to tame the NE and to create a good product. Otherwise, like if I don't create some kind of structure for myself, then it's going to be an overload of ideas that don't really fit together.
Right.
Um, and so I'm aware of that, but I don't want to do that work of sitting down and organizing the facts and making sure that that makes sense. So I end up procrastinating until the last minute and then scrambling to get things done. So that's one major way that it causes me strife.
I see. Do you feel like
Yeah.
you're like meandering in all different possible directions and that SI really grounds you and focuses you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I hate that it has I hate that I have this like animalistic reaction to it. I definitely feel that sense of, don't control me, don't put me in a sensory straitjacket. I I just want to like run and be free and play with ideas. But
Right.
I, yeah, it's so funny how I am genuinely coming to appreciate, the other side of that coin now, and I'm making time for it, and I feel like finally like something in my life is starting to make sense a little bit and materialize. Like I'm understanding these patterns that I've been caught up in, my inclination to jump from one thing to another. I can't stay in one job for too long because I feel like I'm trapped. But
Right.
yeah, I think it's the OP system is so helpful in that sense.
Right. Um, do you feel that NE keeps going on tangents and stuff? Is that why it's so hard to stick with the SI? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
too many tangents.
right, the pattern of the pattern of the pattern sort of thing.
Yeah. And then you get further. So I guess I tend to think of the pattern as being like we're getting to the bedrock, but in reality, sometimes it's more like I'm getting up into the air and I'm untethered from the world around me.
Right. Do you feel like the purpose of all of your any I don't know, ideas and imagination is for that SI in the end? Is there a way that it leads back to the SI in some way?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think that on some weird subconscious level, well, when I was younger, like as a child, that was the thing that I was rewarded for. That was the thing that my parents really noticed in me. Like, this kid's so zany and he has so many great ideas, and let him play, let him write, let him have his fun creative projects.
Uh,
And, um, as a result, like, I felt like by engaging in that stuff, I could secure a sense of like SI comfort. Like as long as I'm doing this, somebody else will take care of, like the adults will take care of the other stuff.
oh
Um,
no.
yeah. And now I'm coming to realize, no, I have to, like, both of these sides of the coin need each other. And I can, use my zany idea generation to think of ways like to brainstorm about how to provide that sense of SI for
Oh,
myself. Yeah.
brainstorming for the SI. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you see that they need each other when you said they need each other?
Well, that's, man, you're throwing the hard questions out here.
Sorry, yeah.
No,
Just
it's
trying
okay.
to
I
get you to
need to do,
clarify. That's the worst
I need
question for
to,
an NE is just clarify. Clarify
well,
your
yeah,
point.
you're also forcing me to sleep in real time.
Right.
um, how do they need each other? Well, I think that if the any is going to amount to anything, then it does need some sort of structure, because you can have, in math, there's like this idea of different gradations of the infinite. Like some
Yeah, yeah.
infinities are greater than other infinities.
Right.
So I guess what I'm talking about, and I know I'm not making it very concrete here, but any is kind of like this great expanse of possibilities. And I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to draw this SI circle here, and then I still have, you know infinities to explore within that circle.
Within that circle, yeah.
But yeah, but I'm no longer wounding myself as exist out here. You have to narrow in, and you can still have your cake and eat it too, to some degree. So I think that's how any needs SI. Otherwise, it's just lifeless, and it doesn't become anything. Um, did I say NI?
SI, you probably meant, yeah. You said NI. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as SI needing any, yeah, I guess I just imagine like this city, like you have all these structures in place and you have a city plan, but with time, the world changes. Like you can't always work with the same old structure, so you do need to inject like new ideas, new ingenuity into that system. So
Right,
that's
yeah.
how I see them, as kind of requiring each other.
Sort of like to stop a stagnation sort of
Yeah.
event. Yeah. Okay. Cool, man. So, is there any final message that you want to give over to people about your type that maybe we looked over? Um,
Hmm.
we didn't really talk about your sleep. I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. You got to watch it happen in real
Right.
time. Uh, um, I guess I would just say that not all ENTPs are trolls, although I definitely understand why that's a conception that people have. And we can have soft hearts. We can be movable with emotions.
Right.
Uh, so there's a stereotype that needs to be shut down, I think.
Okay.
Besides that, I guess I want to plug my YouTube channel
Yeah, yeah, we'll plug it. Yeah.
where I
Auto Alchemy.
um,
I'll put a link in
yeah,
the
Auto
description.
Alchemy.
And what's it about a
The
little bit?
A's. Yeah, so I guess originally it was intended to. I was trying to document all of my various ways of trying to become a better version of myself,
Okay.
and that that project has. I could do a little bit better with committing to that goal and that original vision. Like
The
right now, I
SI
do
goal.
some. Yeah, right now I do like OP videos where I try to type people before the class is actually released,
Okay.
and
You should team up with Jin. He's
um,
doing the same thing. Have you seen his
yeah,
stuff?
yeah, I watch
Yeah.
his videos. He's really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn from him just by watching him.
Cool.
But yeah, it's overall it's just my quest to individuate in the like
Right.
Jungian sense of just becoming more of myself and also sharing resources for other people. Like here are different tools, different frameworks that have helped me.
Right.
Maybe they might help you.
I saw you also trying to type fictional characters and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was trying to coast on the hype of Game of Thrones.
Right. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
very much, Jeffrey. It was really great to meet you and to talk to you. So thanks for coming and yeah, have a good one.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Benjamin. Talk to you later.
Bye.